Yeah, on this glorious Armed Forces Day, it's time we put our troops before those brazen illegal entrants sneaking into dear old Blighty. Can you believe it? I bet you can by now, that we've already had a whopping 3,500 people crossing the channel this month alone. That's more than last June already. I mean, for crying out loud. It looks like someone forgot to stop the boats, eh? This week I was recollecting our valiant Brexit vote from 7 years ago. In my eyes, it was a vote to honour those who sacrificed so very much to protect our democracy, sovereignty and our way of life. But now, I can't help but wonder, would our ancestors actually be proud of what this country has become? Are we supposed to feel a swell of pride when we see low-flouting individuals being housed in cosy hotels, whilst our veterans face homelessness and our serving soldiers battle rats, mould, flooding and lukewarm showers in their own accommodation? It's an utter disgrace. The taxpayers' teat is being sucked dry, tighter than a politician's promise to reduce net migration during an election year. But fear not, dear patriots, for GB News stands firm in its unwavering dedication to fairness for our military heroes and their families. We've gone so far that we've even signed the Armed Forces Covenant. Unlike weak-willed politicians, we won't be bystanders here on this channel. And take a gander at what the Times reported yesterday. Thousands of Albanian asylum seekers crossing the channel in their little boats are apparently vanishing from our hotels. If only our troops had such luxurious accommodation to choose from, eh? I've had enough of these spineless politicians that are too afraid to stand up for our country's interests and our priorities. Our armed forces deserve the full support of the taxpayer, not some illegal migrant. If you break our laws, you should expect a good dose of hostile environment, not our brave soldiers. It's time to put our troops first, and anyone who thinks otherwise is, of course, welcome to naff off elsewhere. Benjamin Butterworth, would you like to naff off elsewhere?
Look, I've been to Albania and it's an incredibly dull country, so I can see why they want to come here. Look, on the immigrants thing, I don't think we should be taking Albanians as refugees. Countries like Germany and Sweden record zero in recent years' figures, but I would like them to come as economic migrants. We need them. On your real point about how we treat veterans, clearly there are cases where we don't treat them well enough. But you're someone who spends half your life going on about how the state is too big, how we spend too much on benefits, how we don't need this safety net being so excessive. So how do you square that with the consequences of your political decision?
Because there is no more important a role for the state than the defence of the realm. That should be their most important act to actually ensure that
so I don't know which question you thought I asked, but that's not an answer.
It absolutely is, because we should be spending money on our troops.
Right.
For troops, absolutely. They should get benefits. They are doing the most important job in this country. More important than anything that you do, Benjamin.
But someone who, I don't know, had a working life and then got some terrible condition and that meant they were on benefits, they shouldn't get the help.
Well, someone in armed forces should absolutely receive a right to housing that is fit for purpose. Not some illegal migrant.
I think there's a lot of hypocrisy there, because
I don't think so at all.
The truth is you're trying to backtrack on the fact that you spend the rest of the time, and so do you lot, talking about how people shouldn't have benefits in a security net, and then you look at the consequences of people not being able to get on if life's
Benjamin, I don't think that's fair. On the issue of benefits, I've always advocated that we should be trying to get people back into work so they can contribute to the economy. But on Darren's point, I think you have quite nicely conflated two issues to make a point. And I don't really think the two issues are related at all. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say we need to do more for our veterans that have served us in the past, give them proper care, proper housing and the dignity they deserve, and also say that we need to do more about stopping the boats. They don't actually have anything to do with each other.
It is actually related, though, to be fair to Darren, it is related, because in terms of social housing, it is often the case that refugees and asylum seekers come up higher on the list when it comes to priority, because they can say they are vulnerable in X, Y and Z way, and therefore veterans, often single men, are pushed down that list. So we do.
So should single men be higher on the list than families, just in general?
A lot of the time, veterans who have risked their lives for our country, I believe that they should be further up the priority list. Yes, particularly when a lot of them suffer from mental health problems, PTSD, have massive difficulties entering again the labour market. It's really difficult.
Exactly.
Really, really difficult.
And I mean,
the problem is, I also think, when it comes to charity, unfortunately, veterans' charities aren't getting as much money as they used to. And I can't help but think it's because our whole discourse is dominated by talking about other issues, and people don't like to talk about veterans so much. I think they see it as being nationalist.
But why don't we just talk about veterans without talking about illegal migrants then?
Because where is the housing and accommodation? You spend all of your time, Albie, blowing smoke up at Rishi Sunak's bottom. What's he actually doing about this? Where are we going to house all the people that Rishi Sunak is letting come over the English Channel? How does that ensure we have the housing stock that we need for people like our veterans?
So on the point about where are Rishi Sunak and your best buddy Suella Braverman planning to house the migrants that are crossing the Channel? They're trying to house them on disused military bases. They're trying to house them on barges to get them out of the hotels and into more cost-effective accommodation. That is a separate issue, Darren, from veterans living a life of dignity in housing that they need.
All right, Albie's got his view. Leo, I mean, does this incense you? Do you see a link between the two, that actually we're being really quite generous to people who have scant regard for our laws, and they're not for the people that actually defend those laws?
Yeah, Darren, I've got to completely agree with you. It's ridiculous, and I hope if one good thing comes out of the Ukraine conflict is that we will stop having this shame, feeling this shame to be patriotic and have pride in our armed forces. They do an incredible job, and Ukraine has shown what happens if you don't have strong armed forces. Then you're nothing. You don't have a nation. If you don't enforce your borders, you don't have a nation. And the fact that anybody who can just get on something that floats and waltz into the country at Dover or whatever can then be treated so well and put in 4-star hotels. No wonder people are coming, and it's so dangerous because it incentivises people to come. It dangles this carrot. It's like, look at the wonderful lifestyle you can have when you get to Britain at the expense of the taxpayer. So then people risk their lives coming across, and sadly, so many of them then drown on the journey.
But if it were the case that we were so good, you wouldn't have far more of those refugees going to countries like France than come here. People act like we take the whole world's load. We don't at all.